We're pleased to communicate directly with 5,000 trustees like you around the country from the top institutions in America. We thank you for your service to students, parents, and taxpayers. In recent months, you've received publications from us dealing with key issues for board members, selecting a president, measuring performance, asking the right questions. Today, we go on campus to the University of Delaware with a special video that looks up close and personal at what's happening on college campuses and why you as trustees should act.
It's football Saturday at the University of Delaware. A part of campus life that every student expects. And a welcome break from the daily rigors of academic life. In an idyllic setting of red brick Georgian architecture dating back to its founding in 1743, Delaware is a highly sought-after school. More than 25,000 students applied to become freshmen this year. Most of them will live in campus dormitories like these, where in recent years, students were required to attend an unusual orientation program, one that would bring widespread attention to the university. Most American colleges and universities operate orientation programs. They are led by paid residence advisors, who are themselves students. But here at Delaware, Kathleen Kerr and James Tweedy headed up a residence life program designed not to orient, but to indoctrinate. The results for the university and its trustees would be embarrassing.
One of the more ridiculous programs that we were made to participate in was we were gathered in a circle around a large bowl of marshmallows. And a series of statements were read off. And if you have ever been afraid to show affection for your significant other in public, if you've ever been afraid to walk through a dark alley at night, and if any of these statements applied to you, you would take a marshmallow and you would place it inside your mouth and you would hold it there. And anytime the statement applied, you'd take another marshmallow. But these statements were targeted towards women, to gays, to minorities, such that by the end of the evening, if you were a white male, you didn't have any marshmallows in your mouth. But if you were, say, an African-American female, you had marshmallows in your mouth. And then we were told to speak to each other, and her voice would be muffled because of all these
all the oppressions,
yeah, symbolized in these, tasty little marshmallows that she was holding inside her cheek.
Delaware's residence life administrators developed a program that covered a variety of topical issues. There was a special emphasis on race and race relations, all contained in a 4-inch thick handbook. To drive these ideas home, students were required to participate in role-playing activities. In time, word about what was going on in the dormitories spread. Jan Blitz and Linda Gottfredson are professors of long standing in Delaware's freshman honors program. They care about their students and are accessible to them. Professor Gottfredson teaches a variety of courses to freshman honors students, including intelligence in everyday life. Professor Blitz has taught in the freshman honors program since its inception. He is a noted Shakespearean scholar.
The stated goals of the program were to change the students' attitudes, beliefs, actions, opinions on a whole range of social and political questions.
Students began to talk about it, and I just couldn't believe the stories.
They were really in the business of trying to turn students, turn them in a certain political direction.
So we followed up, and parents also had complained, as it turned out, to FIRE, Foundation for Individual Rights in Education.
The Foundation's core mission is to defend and sustain individual rights, such as freedom of speech and self-determination at America's colleges and universities, and to educate the public concerning threats to these rights. Greg Lukianoff is president of FIRE. Adam Kissel is director of FIRE's Individual Rights Defense Program.
Fire was initially contacted by a parent of a student at Delaware who informed us that they were having these sessions, these orientation sessions.
The student in question is a white male, and he was being taught through some awful stereotypes and activities that promoted those stereotypes that he was a racist oppressor.
What made it particularly suspicious was that materials were handed out to students that they weren't allowed to keep. The Res Life officials demanded that all of these documents be handed back.
Students came to me. I am known on campus as someone who will help students when they run into political correctness problems. I've helped students in the past. And I said something to my class, and sure enough, students started telling me what I thought were wildly exaggerated stories.
3 of the many students who were puzzled, concerned, and offended by the Residence Life program are Bill Rivers, Alyssa Koser, and Kelsey Lannon. Bill experienced the program as a first-year honors student. Kelsey was a freshman in the honors dorm. Alyssa was a residence assistant for 2 years.
We had to put these big posters, big white posters, up all around the room. There were 13 of them. One was for African American, one was for gay people, one was for, Hispanics, fat people. And people had to go around the room and write the first word that came to their mind. Like whenever they got to Hispanics, they would write like poor, lazy, milking the government. And everyone was laughing.
The kid who was sitting next to me actually identifies as being Hispanic. So I was sitting there writing these terrible things about Hispanic people on there. And he's looking at it, as if I believe these things.
And I remember being really offended by what this group of guys wrote about women. They said that they were only good for cooking and cleaning. And
I had never been a freshman in college before. This was my first night in a dorm with 40 other strangers I'd never met before.
All the students would be asked questions about their views on social and political issues. If they agreed with something like gay marriage, they would go to one side of the room, and if they disagreed, they would go to the other side. This was a way of making students reveal to all of the other students their deepest personal beliefs about the social and political issues of the day.
She's saying, if you're a homosexual, stand up, and we all clap and stuff. And
if you are homosexual, shouldn't it be your decision to let people know?
I felt like I was pressured into facilitating a lot of programs and things that I didn't really feel comfortable doing.
They called out the category Pacific Islander, and no one stood up because there didn't happen to be anyone who was a South Pacific Islander there. Well, we're going to clap and recognize this group anyway.
I think that what racism is thinking about race when you see someone. And that's what they made us think about, was race when we saw someone. They tried to get rid of racism and stuff, but they just made it worse than it was in the first place.
I'd had Professor Blitz spring semester freshman year. And so sophomore year, he and I had kept up, and I would go to visit him in his office. And I went up and I mentioned something of this to him, and I brought it up. And he wanted to know more.